All right, more. This one, and I've had criticism for this guy, so let's go ahead and give him some kudos, I suppose. Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the Anti-Defamation League, who actually pushed back on NBC Live while he was on the air.
Tell us, if you will, just what these last few days have been like for you and why it's so important that you are appearing here today with the Reverend Sharpton.
Well, so I will be honest and maybe a little more vulnerable than I normally would be. These have been some of the hardest days of my adult life. I don't ever remember a moment like this. I have family in Israel right now under siege and being deployed to the front lines. I have staff who can't locate their family. I have friends who are gone.
I want to let him finish, and this is important. This is an important moment because if you don't know who Jonathan Greenblatt is, and the American Anti-Defamation League used to be a stalwart organization who pushed back against anti-Semitism and racism and discrimination, but mostly anti-Semitism. That's why they were created back in the 1920s, before the Holocaust, actually. And they've been fantastic, nonpartisan. This guy was an Obama administration official, and he got this job after the Obama presidency. And he has transformed the Anti-Defamation League to spend the majority of its time, and I'm not kidding, you can go to their website and you can run a search on their news items. They have spent the majority of their time attacking Republicans, conservatives, Trump supporters, recently going after Elon Musk because he opened up X.com for more freedom and more opinions, attacked Chaya Reichek, the Orthodox Jewish woman who runs Libs of TikTok, and spent most of their time lately speaking out against so-called discrimination against transgender individuals. They've gone so far off the path of what they're supposed to. So the only reason I bring this up at this moment, when he is clearly emotional and reacting to the events in Israel, is that maybe this will actually be a wake-up call. Maybe Mr. Greenblatt and his board at the Anti-Defamation League will actually refocus their energies on what the real reason the ADL, was created, and where the real threat here is. The real racist threat, the real hate groups out there, not parents who were concerned about the curriculum in our schools about transgender. I'm sorry for digressing, but it had to be said because this is what this guy has been doing for the last several years.
And I think Ambassador Danone put it well in a context that Americans can understand. 9/11, the evil that was perpetrated here, but the scale, Jonathan, the right comparison is Nagasaki. This was like an atomic bomb. And as 40,000 people were killed in Japan when they dropped that bomb in Nagasaki, so too were the hundreds upon hundreds of people who were killed in Israel. And so while I am sad and trying to cope, I'll be honest, I am angry. I am angry with the world that allowed the dehumanization of Israelis and sanitized the terrorism of Hamas. I must say, I love this show. And I love this network, but I've got to ask, who is writing the scripts? Hamas, the people who did this, they are not fighters, Jonathan. They are not militants. And I'm looking right at the camera. They are terrorists. It is a barbarian who rapes and brutalizes women, who kills children in front of their parents, and then brings them over to Gaza, who literally, we've heard all these reports, and we know these aren't just reports. These were filmed gleefully by the barbarians who committed these grotesque crimes. They filmed, for example, an elderly woman in her home in one of these towns. They burned her alive in her house because she was too infirm to take out. And, parading women bleeding from the crotch because they were raped throughout Gaza while people hoot and holler and cheer. So look, when we say, oh, this was an escalation, it was bound to happen, I am sorry. This was a massacre that was pre-planned. This was not destined to happen. It is not normal to shoot teenagers in the back, hundreds of them. So I just think, guys, get the story right. And all these pictures of like, missiles or the rubble in Gaza. Please talk to the Israeli mothers and fathers who lost their children. Talk to the grandchildren whose grandparents were seized as hostages. And please stop calling this a retaliation. This is a defensive measure against an organization that is committed to one thing: killing Jews, not a peaceful resolution of a conflict, but murdering Jews. And if
It's powerful stuff. By the way, look at the Chiron. While he's talking, 700 are Israelis, 560 Palestinians killed, as if there's some equivalence there. I'm sorry, MSNBC. How many of the 560 Palestinians killed were actually murderers themselves? How many of them were engaged in the initial attacks? That's despicable. Good job, Jonathan Greenblatt, there, calling them out in real time on it. Okay. How about, this is again from NBC, where apparently the real story is not the embarrassing and hapless response from the Biden administration. It's Republicans pouncing and gaining advantage.
President Trump and other GOP rivals have pounced on the Biden administration foreign policy, saying this is a sign of weakness. Former President Trump and other GOP rivals have pounced on the Biden administration foreign policy, saying this is a sign of weakness.
That's the story. That's the story from MSNBC, from NBC News. That's Meet the Press now. The story here is that Republicans are pouncing. All right.